We brought a question before the covenant word. The question asks YHWH to synthesize the prophecy in today's news with the reports placed beside it. The reports speak of 8 airstrikes on an airbase runway, a missed deadline in the matter of a nuclear program, a vessel struck by an unknown projectile in the strait, ships threatened, financial restrictions in the West Bank, a leadership contest, and a strike in Gaza. These are the sounds of nations pressing against one another. Into that sound the text speaks one lead verse. Zechariah chapter 9 verse 16. And their Elohim will save them in that day as the flock of his people, because they will be as the stones of a priestly crown, lifted up as an ensign upon his land. This is not a forecast of headlines. It is a covenant promise. The verse already carries 3 chords that run through the whole: witness, identity, inheritance, and priesthood. The people are his flock. The land is his. The stones are priestly crown stones. The word opens toward salvation, not desolation. The first thing to say plainly is what the mathematical work does and does not do. The verdict is not independent verification of those news events. The verdict reads the pattern of the drawn text against the corpus baseline, and the pattern is affirmative. The pattern polarity is yes. All gates pass. The triple convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood reads at 28.97 sigma against the genre-adjusted baseline. The data shows a statistically confirmed non-random pattern across multiple independent channels. Prospective replication is recommended to establish persistence, but for this draw and this question the convergence is clear. These numbers attend the voice. They do not replace it. They are not the ark. They are a witness that stands outside the camp, pointing back to the words themselves. Now hear what the words themselves say. The nations are not outside his visitation. The text warns, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses and covenant trust in chariots. That is Isaiah chapter 31 verse 1. The day's reports of missiles and vessels and negotiations all sit beside this same warning. Horses and chariots are many, but covenant trust belongs to YHWH alone. This is not a word against defending the land. It is a word against making horses and chariots the final refuge. The final refuge is the Holy One of Israel, and the day's pressure is an invitation to return to him. The loudest thread in the text is priesthood. The priestly architecture of the covenant is everywhere. The sons of Aaron are separated to consecrate the most holy things, to burn priestly incense, to minister, and to bless in his name. The Levites receive no land inheritance because YHWH himself is their inheritance. The whole drawn text is concerned with who may approach, what is consecrated, and what is holy. The altar is not a weapon. The incense is not a flag. The approach is by consecration, not by force. Into that concern the word speaks the promise of Malachi chapter 3 verse 3. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he will consecrate and purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, so that they may approach YHWH with a priestly offering in covenant faithfulness. This is the heart of the hour. The pressure of the day is not evidence that the covenant has failed. It is the refining fire by which the priesthood is made able to approach. The silver is not thrown away. The silver is purified. The land is not detached from that priestly service. The inheritance runs through the whole text. YHWH lifted up his hand to give the covenant inheritance land to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and to give it as a priestly inheritance. The land is divided by lot before YHWH at the entrance of the priestly tabernacle at the appointed place. The children of Gad and Reuben receive their portion only on condition that they pass over armed before YHWH until the land is subdued. The land is never separated from covenant faithfulness. Zechariah chapter 2 verse 12 says it plainly. YHWH will inherit by covenant Judah his portion in the Holy Land, and will choose Jerusalem again. This is the word for the day's news about borders and economies. The question is not only who controls the land. The older question is whether the inheritance is held before YHWH or seized apart from him. The text answers by returning the land to his covenant and by making the people stones of a crown rather than possessors by force. The identity of the people is held by YHWH even in a season of pressure. Zechariah chapter 8 verse 13 says, "As you were a curse among the heathen, so will I save you, and you will be a sacred blessing." Fear not, but let your hands be strong. This is not a promise that the present hour will have no wound. The same drawn text also guards the sanctuary. It warns against bringing the uncircumcised in heart into the sacred place. It remembers the calf at Dan and the idols set in the temple. The promise does not flatter. The refining fire is real. But the direction is not soft. The cautions are the refining edge of the yes. They do not invert the yes. They protect the crown. Underneath all of it stands the servant. Isaiah chapter 53 verse 10 says, "When you make his life a priestly offering for guilt, he will see his seed, he will prolong his days, and the pleasure of YHWH will prosper in his hand." The priestly crown stones are not freestanding. They are set in the crown of the one whose life became the offering. Because he was bruised, his seed endures. Because his life became the guilt offering, the people can be lifted up as an ensign upon his land. The refining fire of Malachi and the crown of Zechariah meet here. The one who purifies the sons of Levi is the one who offered his own life as the priestly guilt offering. The people are stones because he is the crown. So what is the answer to the question brought to the word? It is not that every headline is clean. It is not that the present hour is already the day of unbroken peace. The lead verse says in that day, the full arrival belongs to the appointed season. A real tension remains. The day's pressure is real, and the promise is future. But the direction is yes. The end toward which this day moves is salvation, not desolation. The land remains his covenant inheritance. Jerusalem is chosen again. The priesthood is being purified. The people are being saved as the flock of his people, and they will be as the stones of a priestly crown, lifted up as an ensign upon his land. We are not told to seize the crown. We are told to let the refiner finish his work. That is the firm word and the gentle voice. The lead verses drawn in this altar of reception session were Zechariah chapter 9, verse 16. 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 2. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 10. Joshua chapter 13, verse 28. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 13. Zechariah chapter 2, verse 12. 94 further verses were drawn in this session. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar of reception.